Good morning, church. In Matthew chapter 10, which is, I hope you've already read that this morning, Jesus is sending out his disciples and giving them instructions, and he also has some warnings for them as they go. Now, this sending was restricted to Jewish Galilee, not all the way to the Gentiles quite yet. That time would come, and we can gain encouragement when we read the proclamation that they are given. They were told to go by Jesus and told to proclaim that the kingdom of heaven has come near. What a statement that is. The kingdom was so near that the God-man himself was present, living, and walking among them. Now, the disciples were to go and to heal people, to cleanse people, and even raise the dead. They were to minister in the power of God. And it's amazing to realize that Jesus sent them to do his work. What an amazing truth to realize that Jesus lets us in on his work. Not because he needs us, but because he loves us and he lets us in on what he's doing. Now, during this mission, they were to travel light and to receive the hospitality of others. In other words, they weren't meant to be weighed down or concerned with equipment or supplies. They should solely be focused on the mission at hand. And the lives and souls of people were at stake here, so they were to remain focused. And even their accommodations would be fluid, staying in homes that they deemed to be worthy and accepting. And think about how different this trip would be from anything that we would plan nowadays. We're not so fluid in our travel. Yet they were to be dependent on and led by God and his Spirit as they went. Now, on this journey, Jesus warned them that things will get dicey. He tells them that he is sending them out like sheep among wolves in verse 16. So they will need to be shrewd as a serpent and as innocent as doves. And I think it's still true that we know who we are. We're God's children, and where we are. We're living in a broken and evil world. So we have to remember that as we go and minister ourselves. And in the midst of their mission, Jesus assures them that persecution will come. The authorities would be after them. Families would be torn apart, and the disciples would be hated. And when they were persecuted, they were to flee to another town and minister there. And they would find themselves in front of powerful people, kings and governors. And yet, they should not be afraid, as God is in control. And when they and we find ourselves in the midst of trials and persecutions, we can trust that God will give us the words to say and the actions to take. And that's what Jesus says will happen. God is going to take care of you. You will know what to do. You'll know what to say. And one of my favorite verses in this chapter is in verse 28. Jesus tells them, "Don't fear those who kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul. Rather, fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell." Our aim is to please God and no one else. We fear him first. Let us have a holy, reverent fear of him and no one else. Why should we be fearful? He is for us. And we are to acknowledge Christ before others. That's another thing that Jesus is telling them here. Like, acknowledge me. He stresses that it's going to take a cost. It's going to come at a cost in verses 38 and 39. He says, whoever doesn't take up his cross and follow him is not worthy of him. But then in verse 39, he says, anyone who finds his life will lose it, and anyone who loses his life because of me will find it. We acknowledge God. It does come at a cost, but it's the cost of following him. It will not always be easy. There will be difficulties. They await us, but he is the one who has sent us and empowered us. So let's stand boldly for him, acknowledge him before men, and serve others like we're serving Jesus himself, because we are. And that's his last push at the end of this chapter. Let's serve others like we're serving Jesus. Let's remember that as we go and we live for him today.